this tweet right here, I think, really resonates with me and kind of accurately assesses the state of affairs with what's going on within the One Punch Man community. Shoutouts to Unbroken Apple. Ikari Monogatari. Maybe he's a Monogatari fan. I find it so funny that people call this a 6 out of 10 animation or 5 out of 10 at best. Then suggest watch more anime. ... The anime they suggest? Unga Bunga. Sorry. My Caveman Academia. Gachakuda. Solo Leveling, Jujutsu Kaisen, Unga Bunga Slayer. All the mainstream slop that everyone and their mama knows. You have not watched much anime at all. And you know what? This sounds like a very mean statement. It sounds like a elitist and pretentious statement. But I think I actually agree. And let's separate the emotions, right? We're not trying to pretend like we're better. We're not here calling people like anime tourists like a slur. But let's just acknowledge something. If you watched this most recent episode of One Punch Man, and your conclusion is that this is like a 6 out of 10 and a 5 out of 10, I think you're being very disillusioned with the state of affairs of what's actually going on in the anime industry. Because I think that this episode was good, solid. The Flashy Flash versus the Ninja fight was pretty damn good. Pretty damn good to the point I would probably rate this like, I think it's more accurately like a 7 point something out of 10. I think there is not that much of a difference between a 6 out of 10 and a 7 out of 10. So if you're gonna rate it like a 6, hopefully like a high 6, it would make sense. I wouldn't rate this a 5 out of 10. I think you're being so fucking dishonest. And people also say that the second half of this episode was garbage. I think you're ridiculous. Yes, it was not on par with the Flashy Flash Sakuga, because that was where the priority was. The second half was what? Child Emperor fucking around, saving the kid, and using a bunch of gadgets and toys. The gadgets and toys animation transformation, the dog people, was really fucking good. So all things considered, I think a score of like maybe a range between 6.8 to 7.3, or maybe even in a more generous way, 7.3 to 7.8 is a more accurate rating. There are people out there actually calling it like a 5 out of 10 or even rating it 1 out of 10. And why is that? Because of this. And you know what? I love My Hero Academia Vigilantes. Haven't seen MHA. I love Gachakuda. If you've seen my solo leveling reactions, they literally call me the fucking solo leveling man because I'm Korean and I just happen to know webtoon stuff. And you know, they're like, we've been farming solo leveling really hard. In Jujutsu Kaisen, I'm literally going to sacrifice analytics and marathon season 1, 2 in the movie through all of December, even though no one is asking for it, just because I want to. And I love the mainstream slop. Mainstream slop may sound like a derogatory term, right? But basically, I think this isn't mainstream slop. I think this is mainstream peak. These are headliner anime that many people are aware of. But if that's the only anime that you know, right? This is like the casual person who does not watch seasonal content. What's seasonal content? All this fucking bullshit. Every fucking season, I check out like 20 to 30 shows to see what's gonna pop, what's trending, what's the state of the affairs. And without actually understanding what these shows look like, of course you're gonna have a deranged perception of how good One Punch Man actually was. These animes are pretty fucking bad. I like Sanda. I think this is really, you know, pretty, if we're talking just production value, but just to name a couple, I think that this is really fallen down, right? In terms of production value, this was never really good either, right? I think this is another JC staff anime that probably has even shittier production value than fucking One Punch Man right now, but ain't nobody gonna talk about that shit, right? Because why? Because it's not popular, it's not trending. I think this is more consistent because there's probably more schedule and timing, but there isn't gonna be some crazy Sakuga here. What else is there? I think this is fucking dog shit, but it's really fun dog shit, right? I think this is a really simple show, and this kind of too. And these are just some of the other shows, and there's so many other here we haven't even checked out. And what I'm trying to say is, without actually watching all this different anime, you don't really have an actual understanding of what the state of affairs is, what the actual anime standard is in seasonal content. And I'm not here arguing that, hey, we should be satisfied with One Punch Man being like this. No, I think that it deserves better, way better. But people are so frustrated. They're so fucking upset and angry and been brigading IMDb for fun. I think it's kind of funny that we're trying to make it like lower than 1 star. Whatever, it's just a fucking rating, right? But people have been so caught up in this emotional bullshit that they have made up their minds. They have made up their minds that no matter what, One Punch Man is going to be garbage. And even if they see flashy flash cuts, they're going to be like, nope, not good enough. No, y'all should have seen fucking One Piece. Y'all should have seen MHA. Now that's actually peak. And you know what? Yeah, that's probably his peak. But all you know is peak. All you know is peak. You don't actually watch seasonal content. And on top of that, there is this negative sentiment that people are latching onto because they're frustrated. So that's why people are calling this like this kind of score, like a 1 out of 10. And I think you are an anime tourist. You don't actually understand seasonal anime. You only do watch the mainstream peaks. And you're going to be disillusioned, and now you're compromised. Your perspective and POV is so compromised based on the negative sentiment of what's going on with the production committee that you are walking backwards from a goal that you've already made up, and your ratings are garbage. And at the end of the day, it's just numbers. Who gives a fuck? Yeah, IMDb's going to show this rating. Reviews, I guess, is going to be very jaded. There's a lot of truth in it too, but I'm trying to tell you that like this is what happens when you get captured by team sports. You're bandwagoning, you know, it's this team versus that team. You're either a one frame man apologist or you are, you know, a justice warrior trying to enact, you know, fucking justice into the animation industry. We have to hate, or nothing will change. I think that those type of people who just cry and complain on social media and don't actually like channel their criticism in a productive way to the right format, right, to enact actual change. I think you are like the same as woke leftist blue hair girl who sees human rights violation happening on the other side of the country and they change their profile picture into a filter of that country's flag and say hopes and prayers. I think you are like two sides of the same coins for that. It is so performative. You just want to seem like you are better than other people. You're some sort of moral like justice warrior. And you act as if you're going on a crusade to save the animation industry. No, you're just using this momentum to justify your shitty fucking behavior. Let's read some of the comments. If these are the only men you know, if you actually watch more anime that are not talked about, then you know that this is easily and objectively at least 8 out of 10 animation. And you know what? 8 out of 10 is pretty high. I think that the flashy flash stuff specifically might be. I know a lot of people might say it's not, but I think that 7.5 to 8 range, from what I saw compared to the other stuff that we've seen, yeah, we're talking specifically about the Flashy Flash Sakuga, not the overall episode, but I'd be happy with that. Out of the hundreds of anime titles made every year, MHA, JJK, and stuff, exceptions are not the rule. Yeah, and then people will say, well, no, you're just a fucking coper. It should be on the quality. Yeah, no. Here's the thing, though. It's so frustrating to argue with these fucking retards who just figured out what a production committee is, because no one is arguing that it shouldn't be on this exception level. But it's not realistic. So once we have actually, you know, acknowledged what is real in our world, like an actual grown adult, can we then realize and work with the actual parameters in the real world? And you have to realize there's going to be constraints and bullshit that prevents this from happening. So that's why things are the way they are. If this is at least emphasis on the at least 8 out of 10 in regards to animation, then the gap between 8 to 9 to 10 must be massive on your scale. Well, yeah, they are. And again, it's because these people use like a fucking rating score from 1 to 10, which I just don't fucking understand why you would do that. It just doesn't make sense to me that like you give something like a 4 out of 10, that's like a 40%. 40% is fucking dog shit. You're missing out 60% of the thing, but people will argue that 50% is average. Like 5 out of 10 is average to you. Like, what are you talking about? I think 7 out of 10 is average. I think like 6.5 to like 7 out of 10 is average. I think that from 7 onwards is actually good. 8 onwards is great. And anything in the 9 is actual fucking peak territory. But people have such a weird fucking rating score that like, we're just arguing like, we're arguing based on the number that we're presenting, but I think we can both agree that this is good, right? Saying this is 8 out of 10 means you also don't watch a lot of anime. 8 out of 10 would mean that it's on a level of season 1. No. I think season 1 is a 9 out of 10. I think that the flashy flash stuff, I think is like a 7.5 specifically, like on that cut level. And 8 is a pretty big glaze, but I don't think it's that ridiculous. Season 1 was a 10 out of 10. Again, it's just subjective ratings, right? It's just subjective ratings. This is not 8 out of 10 animation, lol. Even Yu Yu Hakusho 9 is a better animation. Stop coping. Okay, show us the Yu Yu Hakusho stuff. Maybe it is actually that good. There's nothing objective about calling this 8 out of 10 animation. That's your opinion. That's okay to me. This episode was a strong 5, like 6 out of 10. How do you possibly call this a strong 5? A strong 50%? Because at the end of the day, people actually think 5 out of 10 is average. And you know what? If you want to call... Let's just use words. Like, at this point, I think a number is kind of ridiculous, right? Because everyone has like a different definition of what that number means. I like to work in reality. I like to work with the fact that 5 out of 10 is a 50%. You get a 50% on anything in real life. That's fucking, you're missing half the other shit. That's pretty much a fucking failure to me. You want to argue that it's actually the right thing. I think you're delusional, but go ahead. So at that point, let's just say, what's a strong 5 to you? What's like a light 6? Is that like good? If that's good, then hey, I think it was good too, and let's just fucking move on. Not a lot of people understand that those animes are just small speck of the hundreds of anime that gets produced each year. This episode isn't as good as Gachakura MHA episode 3. Yeah, I would absolutely agree with you. I think that Gachakura was absolutely better this week than One Punch Man. The reason that I actually put One Punch Man ahead of Gachakura is because of this. Because we were getting shit on over week. Coping, and finally they gave us something worth coming out for. And at that point, I was like, you know what? Hell yeah. I was so happy with what we got that a good episode of One Punch Man made me more enjoyed than a peak episode of Gachikura because of the state of affairs. That's pretty much it. Why do people think that a 6 out of 10 score is bad? I feel like 60% is really bad. I don't know. Like because I'm thinking numbers. You gave me a number from 1 to 10 and you're telling me that a 6 out of 10, like, have you been to school? People say that it's ridiculous to inject real life grading system in numbers, but I think, no, I think you're retarded. I think there is an actual reason why like fractions, percentages, numbers exist. I think that a 60% means that you're missing out 40%. I think that 60% means you barely fucking passed. That like it was passable. And I think that a 60% accurately summarizes some of these animes like this, right over here. I think this is a 6 out of 10. I think this is a fucking 5 out of 10 or a 6 out of 10. I think that this is like a 6 out of 10. I think that the direction actually, this is really good. So that even though the production value is kind of chapped, that the story is really good. I think this is like a 6 out of 10. I think 6 out of 10 is pretty fucking bad. I think that 70% is where it's like, okay, now you're actually kind of getting better. And 75% is like, all right. Like, listen, like, at the end of the day, can we just agree that these numbers don't matter? Let's just agree that, like, because everyone has such a weird perception of viewing numbers, that the number doesn't matter. Let's just use words. Was it bad? Was it mid? Or was it good? Because I don't think this was a great episode. I think that there were moments of greatness, but I think that, like, if we're going to be using just words, I think this is a good episode, right? But obviously, again, my tier list is a bit different. It's not just off of that. It's just based off entertainment value. So yes, I think that this was a good episode. The numbers, we can argue about that. It's a very semantics thing. Whatever. I don't care. It's not peak. It's not great. I think it was a solid, good episode. That's pretty much it. I find out that crazy the anime fans don't understand that there are like 60 animes going each seasons and the vast majority is trash. True, Lamau. Yeah, and that's why like people are like so shocked. They're like so shocked. They're like, oh my god, like I can't believe like One Punch Man is getting done this dirty. And you know what the Japanese people were saying? They were fucking laughing at the international, saying, "Do you think this is something specific to One Punch Man? You think this is the first time that a beloved series got shit fucking adaptation? This is an industry-wide problem." And people just like, again, it's literally the same thing of like a woke fucking feminist in college who doesn't understand anything about their real life, but they're young and they're passionate and they want to do good. They hear about random human rights, you know, fucking violation going on the other side of the planet, and they're protesting and they're marching. And you know what? That's a very good thing to do. You're a morally and ethically good person, even if it may be performative. But then you realize, like, welcome to life. You realize this has been happening throughout the last couple hundred of years, and if not more. This has been, and now you just realized it. You literally just found out the peak of the fucking iceberg, and now you're acting as like, now you're like, yeah, whoop whoop, protest on Twitter, change your fucking profile picture to a different flag. It's just like, again, two sides of the same fucking coin, performative fucking leftist libtard shit, but on the other spectrum, just for the anime shit. It's just like, oh god, y'all are so fucking cringe. Seeing Gachakuda amongst anime like MHA and JJK is healing me. And you know what? Yes. Because again, he said it was mainstream slop. I think it's mainstream peak, actually. But it's One Punch Man. It's one of the biggest. No one's arguing with you. No one's fucking arguing with you that it's yes. And you know, the biggest this is actually a lie. I think that biggest IP out there, well, it depends how you like quantify it. But I care about domestic numbers, and the domestic numbers in Japan shows that season 1 wasn't that hot. And it kind of makes sense why season 2 was, you know, kind of given to JC's staff afterwards. Like, it's not hitting crazy Demon Slayer numbers. It's not hitting crazy, like, whatever other big numbers. It's just okay. Now, internationally, I think the IP is big due to different collaborations, for sure. But I don't think, yeah, it can't even make top 10 best brands of Bandai Namco. That's kind of crazy. But yeah, internationally, I think it's really hyped up. But domestically, I think it's very weak. I recommend you to watch Slice of Life stuff made by KyoAni. That's just going to be peak. I will see how it would be better than 5 out of 10 for this One Punch Man episode. No, we've seen KyoAni fucking episodes. I think that more importantly, you need to watch this shit, right? Rather than saying go watch some peak Slice of Life, go watch some of this garbage here. Go check out what an actual 6 out of 10 anime is. Straight up. I implore you to go watch something like this, which is an actually 5 out of 10 or a 6 out of 10, or something like this. Like, if you watch an episode of Classes Here, which is really fun junk food slog, and you show me, compare the flashy flash Sakuga that happened this recent episode with, like, you know, this PNG fucking animation happening. And if you still think that they're equal out of 6 out of 10, I think you're delusional. At the end of the day, I think it's a couple of things, right? I think at the end of the day, yes, many people are anime tourists and there's nothing wrong with that. But don't act like you actually understand what relative scores should be for anime happening on a seasonal basis. You also are so captured by emotional hatred for what's going on with One Punch Man, and you're right. It's unfair, it's cruel, it's unjust. I wish it was better. But due to all of this, people have been emotionally captured and they can no longer see the objective truth. On top of that, people also have a very weird understanding of how numbers work. They think that a 5 out of 10 is average, even though a 5 out of 10, I think is a 50%. That means it's a failure. But at the end of the day, these are just numbers. It doesn't matter. If your definition of 5 out of 10 or 6 out of 10 is good, then my definition of 7 out of 10 is also good. Then we're on the same page. So number don't matter. I think it was a good episode with shades of greatness happening throughout, you know, the flashy flash stuff. And that's pretty much it. Check out this guy's tweet. Thank you for the content. Thank you for, I love just reading tweets and just yapping about it and making a whole thought process, just like a discussion. And let me know what you guys think in the comment section. Bye-bye.